Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. I begin in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. Dear viewers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, and welcome to this week's edition of Behind the Headlines. With you here on British Muslim TV, confidently Muslim, comfortably British, Sky Channel 752. We're also online across the world on www.britishmuslim.tv. We're at British Muslim TV on Twitter. We're British Muslim TV on Facebook and on all other platforms that you love and enjoy to interact with. We're with you for the next hour with an hour full of inspiration, motivation, and much, much more. Regular viewers of the program will be familiar with our format. We have the great honor every Friday evening of interviewing an inspirational guest, someone who can motivate us to do more, to do better in our lives. And today, I'm delighted to say, we are heading to the world of comedy, the world of acting, the world of art and fame. And we are honored to be joined by one of the most acclaimed British Muslim actors in the United Kingdom. And perhaps for some, the term British Muslim actor is something new. Did we ever hear growing up from our parents about children becoming actors? But indeed, it is now a phenomena, and a phenomena that has been truly phenomenal for the cultural and artistic display that we have within our community. The one and only Abdullah Afzal joins me live on the program this evening. Assalamu alaikum, brother Abdullah. Thank you so much for giving up your valuable time to join us on the program tonight.
Wa alaikum salam. Thanks for having me. Do you write your own script? Because that was beautiful. That very a lot of big words being used. You know,
yes. Well, I
use big words to try and sound more photosynthesis.
Yeah, well, I don't actually write a script, to be honest. It's just all comes naturally, Abdullah, from the heart, just for you, alhamdulillah, because you're our guest here. Now, Abdullah, I want to start at the very, very beginning. Born and bred in Manchester, how did your journey begin? What was your childhood like?
I think, you know what, being born and raised in Cheetham Hill in Manchester, it was a very Pakistani-fied area. It was like a very small area that was full of Pakistani people, and then there were no-go zones in terms of there was the white racist area, we used to call it at the time growing up, because that's where you'd get a beating for being from Pakistan, and there was other areas that were just Pakistani, so there was the Pakistani area and a white area. Nowadays, when I go back to Cheetham Hill, it's beautifully diverse. We have people from all over the world there, but back then, it was a little bit different. So I grew up in quite a tough environment, a very working class, poor environment as well, where, opportunities for our elders were very scarce. There was hardly anything there in terms of work, in terms of ways to better yourself. And the message we used to get from our parents back then was, in order for you to make it in this world, and in order for you to repay us for the sacrifices we've made for you, you're going to have to work 10 times as hard as anybody else. And that was the message that was kind of drummed into us. So my dream growing up was to be an imam. That was my thing growing up. Wow. And it was because not only was it something that, growing up, I was really into my deen. That came from my family. I remember, I was the weird kid that was too religious in school. Where I was actually bullied for being too religious by other Muslim kids. My own cousin did invite me for a trip in a limousine that his father had bought, because they wanted to play music and they were worried that I would find it offensive. Do you know what I mean? Things like that.
Wow.
So,
wow.
And I used to love inhaling and soaking up information about my deen and my religion, and that's why.
Where did that come from, Abdullah? Because quite a lot of the time when children are children, you have to work really hard to encourage them to go to the mosque and to learn more about their deen and get more engaged with their deen. Where did that come from for you at such an early age?
My family. The thing was, my family were very, very religious and learning at the same time. Like, they weren't stuck in the ways. Like, they were always open-minded in terms of the deen, finding if they were doing anything wrong and stuff like that. And my hero growing up was my older brother, who's 13 years older than me. And I just wanted to be like him. And he used to always give me this information and this all this stuff about Islam, and he was really into it, debating, and he used to do speeches at the mosque, and I thought, I want to do that. And that's where it all really kicked in, because I was at the mosque, and I was always the way I am now, very loud, very confident, always telling jokes. I would not feel any fear standing up in front of 150 people and talking. Zero fear. And that's when the mosque said, look, we'll write some speeches, and there's a speech going on in Nelson, a speech competition in Nelson. Go and do it. Let's see what happens. So they wrote me a speech. I went there and I did it like I've been doing speeches for 50 years. As an 8-year-old kid doing that, you get a lot of attention, and I enjoyed the attention. So that was another side of it. So I did a lot of Islamic speeches, and I guess that's where the performance side of my life came from, was traveling around the UK and doing these competitions for kids, where I was doing some Islamic themed speeches, and that's where it all kicked off.
And what about Abdullah, Afzal at school? Were you a good kid at school? Were you well behaved? Were you as engaged with your academia as you were with your religious studies?
So in primary school, I was very well behaved, and there were parts when I was lazy, but that wasn't laziness. A lot of the time I was associated with laziness, but it's more the fact that I had no interest in that subject that we were learning at that particular time. Absolutely zero. I was stubborn that way. But, I did all right. I got good SATs results. And when I was in year 6, I remember a camera crew coming and filming the school because of its diversity and the amount of Muslim children in the school. At Channel 4 were doing a programme, and they'd come in and they were filming, and they noticed me doing the adhan for prayer for Dhuhr during the lunch break. And they came in and they started speaking to me, and I spoke back to them. And I could just see the eyes start to widen, like they've they've hit the jackpot. And they contacted the school, contacted my family, and before we knew it, they were doing a documentary on me in that school. This was called Northern Rights. I believe it was 1999, actually. I think it came out, 1999, on Grenada. And that was a school thing, so it was quite popular because I was on TV and I was talking about Islam on that thing, and they were following me around. Everywhere I went, there were cameras. So that was my first feel of TV. But then when I went into high school, I was good, year 7, year 8, year 9. I was a very good kid. I was a very soft kid. I didn't like violence. I didn't like, the other kids bullying. I didn't like being in fights, nothing like that. And you almost had to do that in that school to fit in. So I was a bit of an outcast. I had my own little crew of friends that were all the similar type to me. But then when I was in year 10, when I just moved into year 10, I was on course to get really good GCSEs. I was very confident. I'm very happy with what I was doing. And that's when my mother was diagnosed with a rare type of cancer. And I think that threw me off the rails a little bit. And it wasn't just the fact that my mum had cancer, because I almost didn't accept that anyway. It was more the fact that people had said to me, my family had said to me, don't worry about what's happening at home. We understand that things are hard, but we're going to be supportive of you, we're going to be here with you. And that almost gave me a free license to start messing about, to be honest with you. So I did fall off the rails. I did have issues in school, and in fact severely, because my GCSEs were completely ruined when it started happening. My mum passed away in June in that same year, before I went into year 11. And again, nobody at that time, nobody kind of cared. Everyone was worried about my mother and what was happening there. And my dad, who was left alone, and my sister was supposed to be getting married, and so it kind of let me loose. I was always under the watchful eye of my mother, and that kind of had gone now, and I was just left to, and I guess it was a cry for attention in a way, where I was just seeing what I could get away with almost.
And what effect did that have on you yourself, as someone who had grown up in an area where at home you had significant sense of belonging? There were certain areas where you couldn't go, you'd be the victim of racism, and now you no longer had your mum around. How did that change you, looking back as a child, as a young person at that time, in such a crucial time of your life when you were taking these GCSE exams?
I had to grow up very quickly, but instead of doing that, I went the other way. I became more immature, more silly. I told you I would never get into fights, never be aggressive. Suddenly I turned into this kid where I didn't care if I took a beating. And trust me, I took a beating. I took a beating or two after that. I used to get into fights. I wasn't scared to speak my mind. I was never disrespectful, though. I was never disrespectful to my elders. I got excluded when I was in year 10 from high school. And there was a great sense of injustice about it, where I would not lie down and take it, because what had happened was there was a teacher, an RS teacher, funny enough, who was telling people to tuck their shirts in school. Now, for whatever reason, I thought she said, tuck your skirt in. So I repeated, tuck your skirt in? Like, why did she say that? To which she replied, how dare you tell me to take my skirt off? Which obviously I did not say. And I ended up getting excluded for it. And that was the first time I was upset. I remember how angry I was, not just with the teacher, not just with the school for excluding me without hearing my side, but my family. For at the time, their face was like, oh my God, how bad has Abdullah come that he's willing to do that? That's nothing like any of the rest of us. No one else in this family would ever do anything like that. It wasn't until my dad had to go into school with me and had to go with me to apologize to that teacher that he realized it was a lie, because, you know, no, I'm not being funny, but she looked like a couch with eyes. And he realised I wouldn't say anything like that to her. And it was just one of those things. And I remember the injustice I felt there. And that was honestly the last time I thought I'm going to let people get away with treating me that way. But then they did again and again, and I've never reacted, to be honest. So I thought I would. I made a promise to myself, and I've broken it to myself every single time since. But yeah, that was a big part of my life. My mum passing away. It changed my personality, made me more independent, it made me stronger. One thing it did do was it made me almost numb to death. So many people have passed it, and it's upsetting and it's sad.
Yes.
But I have a great calmness when it comes to it. I have a great understanding of stuff like that, and it scares me and it worries me. But instead of perhaps my elders being the rock to me when these things happen, I found myself as one of the youngest in the whole family in terms of cousins and everything. I've ended up being one of those who is the one to be leaned on rather than the other way around when it comes to time of trauma.
We are going to continue speaking to you, Abdullah Afzal, the internationally renowned actor and comedian, speaking about his life and what has shaped him into the person he is today. We'll be back right after this break. Stay tuned to Behind the Headlines, British Muslim TV. Dear viewers, Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Behind the Headlines here on British Muslim TV. We have the huge honour and privilege tonight to be in conversation with the internationally renowned actor and comedian Abdullah Afzal of BBC fame. You would have seen him on BBC Citizen Khan, The Lunch Monkeys and so many other prominent plays, dramas, films, TV series, you name it, Abdullah Afzal has featured in it. And we're speaking to him about his life and how the tragic loss of his mother at such a young age has really shaped him and his life from that day onwards. Abdullah Afzal, we were speaking about how you dealt with that loss, how you coped at that time, and various ways in which you tried to seek the attention of those around you. You became quite a mischief maker in order to get attention. When did you decide to put yourself on a firm path, or did you make that decision? Was it a concerted decision to say, I need to pave my way in life now?
I think I felt like I now had the right to ask for a little bit of freedom, and I think my family were happy to give it to me, because after my mum passed away, my dad had to leave because his father was ill in Pakistan. So I was kind of left almost orphaned completely, and all my siblings were now married. So it was literally me and my cat left. Wow. And there was a lot of talk about who was going to take over and look after me and who I was going to live with. There was talk about me having to go to Pakistan to live with my uncles. There was a lot of conversation about my elder sister, who was always like a mother to me in many ways. Since my mother got ill, she completely took over. And although she had married and moved into a new house, herself and her husband, who had only met the year before, were happy to take me in. And that was a huge step because they were very poor. There was very little amount of money. They lived with a large family with brothers and their wives, and there wasn't enough space for me, but they really wanted to take me in, and my sister really wanted to be there for me. And it's something that I'd always be very, very grateful for, because I really believe that if my sister hadn't stepped up that day, I don't know where I would be today. It was literally unbelievable. When it comes to family, you know, especially when you've had a loss of someone like a mother, the head of the household, who, you know, is in charge of everything, who shapes your whole life, and you lose that, someone has to fill that void.
Yes.
I think I was on the verge of being left alone. And, you know, my sister stepped up and she raised me. You know, I always say to her that her kids aren't like my nieces, their kids are like my siblings, because, you know, I'm eternally grateful for what she did for me. She didn't have to do that.
And that gave you the stability, the focus that you needed to focus on where you go next. Now, when did you make that decision of, I'm not going to become an imam, but I'm going to become an actor, a comedian? How did that come about?
Well, what happened with me was I was very quick at learning the Quran. Very, very, very quick. I was ahead. All the imams that I know now, I was in the classes with them. And they used to be looking at me thinking, oh my God, this guy is unbelievable. How fast is he learning? But the problem was I was learning very quickly, but I was forgetting just as quickly. So it was more of an ability thing that I stopped that journey, because although I was doing hifz, and it was the fact that when I completed it, I'd forgotten a lot of it. So it was one of those, it was becoming a question of, you know, am I able to do it? And at the same time, I got permission from my family to do a school play, which was something I wasn't allowed to do before, because my family was so conservative and religious. They were worried about what acting entailed. And because of my mother getting ill at the time, they told me that I was allowed to get involved. And I never acted before. I don't know what it was, but it became apparent very quickly that I was above the rest in terms of my classmates, in terms of performance and timing. And ever since, that's been the thing that directors, producers have always told me, is that your timing is what makes you stand out from the rest. Your timing, your comedy timing. So that's what I worked on. But I remember at the time as well, that's what the teacher was saying, your timing's incredible. Knowing when to say what, your positioning. And I didn't know what any of that meant. But then when I get to year 11, after my mum had passed, you know, the teacher took me out and said, you're the only kid in year 11 that asked you to do this, but we've been commissioned to do a play at the Lowry Theatre, which is a big theatre in Salford, where the city is just opposite. And we're going to be doing a Shakespeare, and we want you to be the only year 11 kid that does it, because the others weren't allowed to because of the GCSE year. And I went and I did that, and I performed in front of hundreds of people at the Lowry Theatre, and I stole the show again, and it just felt incredible. It felt really good. It felt like it was my therapy, it was my outlet, it was my thing. And there was no one else at the time. I couldn't think of anyone else from my area, from Britain, who was a British Asian or a British Muslim doing it. I didn't know anyone. And I felt excited that I was going to break down this door. There was something about it that empowered me, that I felt stronger. And I never, ever felt, this is completely delusional, don't get me wrong, but at the time, I thought, I'm the best actor in the world. I remember that. And then, you know, then things changed a little bit, because after that, I went into college, and I saw an ad. And this is a BMTV exclusive for you guys. I'm not talking about this on TV before. I saw an ad online where it said, there's a film called Extraordinary Rendition, where you could go, where you could audition for the lead role. So I applied, and they said, yeah, come into audition. So I said to my dad, I want to audition for a film. He said, no, you're not. I said, oh, yes, I am. He said, oh, no, you're not. We'll come to the panto later. And he said to me, all right, fine, go for this audition. I'll pay for your ticket to London. If you don't get this part, your acting career is done. We're not going to go down that line. You're going to get no. That was the deal I made with my dad. So I thought, right, I've got to get this part. So I went, and straight away it felt a bit seedy. You weird director, weird producer, it's a weird environment. They asked me to take my top off. You know, weird stuff. They rang me 2 hours later and said, look, we really want your part. And you knew nothing about finances, nothing. But they rang me and they said, look, we're going to give you £1,000 to do it. They didn't give me dates, how many days they needed me. They didn't tell me how many hours. They didn't tell me anything, just £1,000. I was like, yeah, I'm a movie star. yes, I don't know the difference between a feature film or a short film or whatever it was. So I got the part, went in, and they said, right, we need to do a screen test in Southampton. I went down to Southampton. They said, take your top off. They said, the film is about you being wrongly tortured because they think you're a terrorist. So they said, we just want to see how you look on screen getting hurt. I thought, okay, this doesn't sound normal. They sat me in a chair and they did a few fake slapping and I had to react to it. Said, no, it's not quite working. And then they said, right, the producer's coming in, and the producer came in and he said, listen, I'm just going to slap you for real once. Just, do you mind? You look like a tough guy. I've obviously been from Cheetah Mill and being in like, hard boy mindset. I was like, yeah, go on then. So they filmed and he just absolutely leathered me in the face, right? I said, oh, what an amazing shot. Oh, it's incredible. Yeah, whatever, blah, blah. And I went home with an aching jaw. Then they called me in for the actual filming. Now, I was 17 years of age. The things they did to me in that film were highly illegal. Let me explain. They gave me a form. They said, consent form. They said, your father has to sign this. I signed it myself. I thought my dad's not going to want to read any of this, and I don't understand it anyway. I signed it myself. Now, in that document, I found out later, they asked for the rights of my father. I don't think this is illegal either, to strip me of my clothing and to keep me overnight in certain places. So what ended up happening was, instead of this being a script that we follow, which it was to an extent, it was more of me doing my own stunts. It was literally torture. I was beaten, I was tied up, I was stripped completely of my clothes. I was thrown in underground bunkers and water thrown over me. They had strobe lightning flashing everywhere where I couldn't sleep. They had loud rock music, so I couldn't sleep. So I was really in a mental state. They completely ruined me, and still I was in denial. When we hear about the Azim Rafiq situation at the moment, and he says how he was always in denial that he was receiving racism and it was normal. Exact same for me. I thought this is normal. This is acting. I'm doing a brutal film, and this is what it's like. It wasn't supposed to be like that. I remember one of the actors looking at me, and they've been told that I'm just in character. They've been told that I'm playing along, so not to worry. Because I would say, is this normal? Am I okay? And they would think that I was just in character and I'm being myself. So I was getting beaten, and I remember one of the actors crying, saying, "I feel uncomfortable because I was wrapped up on a chair, naked, getting battered." That's what it was. And the only time I realised that this really isn't right is when one day they tied me to a board, tipped it upside down, wrapped cling film around my mouth, my head, my eyes, and poured water down my nose. Now, later on, I found out this is to be called waterboarding. Didn't know what it was. So I was waterboarded, properly waterboarded. For a long time, I was in a horrible state. I got very ill. And then they put £1,000 in my pocket and they let me out the door. And I went home and my family was shocked. The fact that I'd lost about 2.5 stones and I was already very thin at the time. I'd struggled away. I was ill for months. And years later, I remember sitting down thinking, I was genuinely kidnapped and tortured. That's literally what happened to me. You can disguise it as a film as much as you want, but I was tortured and I was hurt, and that was my first introduction to TV and film and that lifestyle. And instead of it putting me off, I just thought, I might as well just get into comedy instead.
And that was abuse of a minor, someone who was only 17 years old, and we apologize to viewers who be distressed by what you have just said there and described, but it was your real life experiences, what you went through. But how do you get beyond that? How do you get beyond that abhorrent treatment, racism that you experience? How do you get beyond that and then pick yourself up again and move on to still stay and want to do something in television?
I think it helped that I was delusional. I think it helped that I was a bit naive in terms of what had happened to me. I just thought I'd made a film, so I was confident. I was so confident in that, one audition, one part. And then before I knew it, I was getting my drama. I did a play in college in drama straight after that, where I did a Harold Pinter play where I played an 80-year-old man. And I got a standing ovation. The examiner that came to examine me gave me a standing ovation. Wow. And I got, out of 120 marks, I got 120 marks. Now, if that wasn't a clear enough indication that I was a good actor, nothing ever was going to convince me, because that was
We are in conversation with Abdullah Afzal, the internationally renowned comedian and actor, speaking to us a very painful experience, heartbreaking experience that he went through just as a young boy, where effectively his youth and naivety was taken advantage of, but how he was able to get over those barriers and become the renowned celebrity that he is today. We'll be back right after this break. Stay tuned to Behind the Headlines British Muslim TV. Dear viewers, Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Behind the Headlines. We are in conversation with the internationally renowned actor and comedian Abdullah Afzal, speaking to us about some of the heartbreaking ordeal that he went through as a young person, as a child in effect, and how that has influenced and made him who he is today. Very, very distressing experiences that Abdullah relays. And if anyone has been affected by anything we've discussed in the program today, please do visit britishmuslim.tv/support. That's britishmuslim.tv/support. And you'll be able to find help and assistance there. And we do, of course, apologize to anyone who finds this distressing, but it is part of Abdullah's life, and we are here today on this program to speak about people's lives. And I think it's important for us to know where people have come from, the experiences they've had, good and bad, that have made them who they are today. But Abdullah, from that shocking ordeal that you went through, you then participated in a play, you got a standing ovation from the examiner. And when did you go from school plays, college plays, to actually the big screen, the big show? How did that transition work for you?
Well, it went from that last play, actually, that I did, because after that, my drama teacher actually received a message from a casting director saying, we're looking for actors for a sitcom. It's a pilot episode for BBC Three. We wanted to see if you had anyone in mind. So my drama teacher said, well, if you've got any Asian characters, there's someone that stands out. And they said, yeah, we are looking for one Asian character, actually. So I went along to this audition, second audition of my life. I went in, did my thing, came home, got a phone call. We'd like you to come in again.
Wow.
Went in again, did my thing, came home, got told I got the part. It was literally that. It was unbelievable. And when you go from audition to audition and getting every part, it comes to a point where you just think there's no way you won't get a part. And this is where I was at mentally. So I went and I did this pilot, and I was so naive. I had no experience. I did not know what I was doing. It was a very low budget pilot, so there was no makeup artist at the time, could afford it, nothing like that. So it's funny because when I watched that pilot episode again recently, it's like in one of the scenes I'm clean shaven, and the next scene I've got like a beard. It was just weird. So that happened. The series then the pilot then got picked up for a TV series, and then it got scary because every other actor got the part, except for me. I had to re-audition for the part because everyone else had been to drama school and had some sort of TV experience. I think I was the youngest by about 7 years. Wow. So I was only obviously 18 at the time, and had to re-audition in front of a really incredible director called Martin Lipsey, who had directed so many things, including Psychoville at the time, which was doing so well. So yeah, it was a big deal. I went, auditioned, got the part, got an agent. You know what I mean? It all just kicked off, and then I went and I did the series. It wasn't great money, but it was TV, and I remember sitting there with my boys and watching it back. And you know, it wasn't exactly Halalist comedy I've done, but at that time, I think there was an inner conflict at the time with me where I was distancing myself from my deen. My iman was at an all-time low, especially after what I'd gone through. And I was more interested in becoming famous, becoming a TV star, than I was anything to do with my deen, anything like that. I still had a little bit in me. I still made sure, you know, I did certain things, but yeah, I'd lost a big part of it. Haram stuff was becoming normal for me now. But in terms of the professional side, everything was picking up. I did Lunch Monkeys. We did 2 series of that.
Yes.
Straight after, which was incredible. Great experience. Met some fantastic people, career-wise. Got some great advice. Met some, you know, networking side. Met some fantastic directors, actors, people who are all over the show right now. Got an audition for a breakout comedy that was going to be a first comedy about a British Pakistani family. I got the script. It said your characters. It's going to be a showcase first. It's not a series. It's a showcase that's going to be done in Manchester, in Media City. I was told your character's got a strong Birmingham accent and he's a bit stupid. That's all I was told.
Wow.
So I thought, how can I make this different? And I read the script and it was like, I remember there's a line in the script which was like, I've got loads of posters on my wall. That was it, just that line. Now, in my head, I thought, if I was going to do it the way they described it, I'd go, there's loads of posters on this wall. Just something like that. And I thought, everyone's going to be doing that. So how would I do it different? So I did it differently. So I went and I was like, oh, there's so much posters on the wall. I just did it in my own way, really stupid, really naive. And they were looking at me like, this is not what we asked for, but we like it. More, then they gave me more. Got the part, of course.
Yes.
The showcase. The showcase was incredible, by the way. There were people laughing. Like, I've never seen people laugh like that. They were falling in the aisles. It was ridiculous, the pilot. And I always think with Sit the Card, it would have been, although it was a success on TV and as a live theatre show, it was unbelievable, you know. Yeah. That's what it was. To see it live is a much different thing to witness than it is on TV. It was just, I think Sit the Card was made to be done in front of a live audience.
And how was that? How was that for you in terms of your experience? Because here you developed from doing college and school plays to now the Lunch Monkeys, which I think was a radio drama, and now you'd gone onto TV, the big screen, the BBC. Doesn't get bigger than that, and literally at prime time, you've managed to land yourself this series with the famous character known as Amjad, as you said. How was that for you in terms of your self-confidence, your self-esteem, and your general feeling about yourself and your professional competencies?
Well, first of all, Lunch Monkeys was actually turned into a TV series on BBC Three. So I'd already had a little bit of TV experience now because of that. You know, regular in it, every episode, 12 episodes we did. And then it became a Sit the Card. When I went into that, I think it would have been easy to be overwhelmed, to feel like a small fish in a big pond. But because of my mentality at the time and my confidence at the time, I still thought I was the best actor there. That's just, you know, I remember working with Chris Marshall, who's, you know, he's a massive actor. He played Dave in the first series and wasn't fussed. I didn't care. I thought I'm better than him. I remember thinking that. I remember being like that I need every scene, I'm going to steal it. And I'm not going to steal it by being louder or in the face or anything. I'm going to steal it by being the best character of the character I'm playing. The best way. And that's what I did. And it was a whirlwind. But again, going through the first series and the second series of Sit the Card, I was getting more famous. I was getting more popular. I was getting more weird things, more opportunities outside. And I was getting less Islamic education. I was getting less interaction with my Muslim people. I was getting less interaction with my deen, with my iman inside me. And I almost pictured it like a balloon which hadn't been tied yet from the bottom. And I just loosened the grip. And the iman was coming out. It was coming out. And I was deflating. It was deflating at the time. And 2 series of Sit the Card had gone. You know, I had a certain amount of fame at this point. Then the 3rd series came. And when the 3rd series came, I physically felt it. I physically felt that I'm changing as a person and not for the better. Don't get me wrong, I was still polite, but I was getting quite drawn into the world of haram.
Mm.
The world of haram that is very, very easy to fall into in my line of work.
Mm.
Unbelievably easy.
Mm.
It's just surrounded by it. There is, it's literally, you cannot breathe for haram stuff. And, you know, it was from everything from, you know, I remember my popularity with the ladies became ridiculous. You know, it was just parties, invited to parties. Alhamdulillah, I never went down the drinking side because I never felt like I needed to. I remember thinking, outside of a religious point of view, I remember thinking that if I was to drink, I'd be mental because I already am. I remember thinking that. So, you know, alhamdulillah, I stayed away, but I did go down a bit of a haram. I went to a few parties, things like that. And
how did you...
it was just hard for me to look my sister in the eye, the sister that raised me, because I felt like if she found out what I was becoming, she would blame herself. And what she did for me after my mum passed away was undeserving of such treatment. I remember thinking that.
Wow, wow.
And that's when I started trying to back away. And in 2014, in the Ramadan, I volunteered to take over the mosque shop, which means I had to be there in the mosque the whole day, take care of the shop in the masjid. And I told my family, if I don't find a wife now, I'm going to end up in some haram relationship. I'm going to end up with a dodgy wife and I'm going to lose my deen. I really remember thinking that. So my family went out and we looked and we found someone that was, was what I was looking for, what she was looking for in terms of me. Although she hated what I was doing, she didn't want me to be an actor. She didn't like my TV side. But she did like my personality. She liked who I was. She liked my family. I liked her family. And then we got engaged just before that Ramadan, 2014. And I wanted to change. So I spent that month in the masjid. It was a great experience in terms of being injected by the adrenaline of Islam again.
Wow.
Being injected by that feeling of belonging. This is where I belong. I never felt like I never felt belonged in this haram world. I always felt like a stranger there that was trying to fit in. Whereas when I was in the masjid, and by the way, there were many people in that masjid that did not like Citizen Khan. There were many people in that masjid that did not like Citizen Khan, did not like me in that show, did not like our way, but they never made me feel like I wasn't welcome.
We are coming up to a break, but we're going to carry on speaking to Abdullah Afzal and his incredible journey from literally the height of fame that you can get, TV series after series, but how he did not feel at home in that space, and it was actually his local masjid, his belonging to his faith of Islam, that actually made him feel at peace, comfortable and confident in himself. We'll be talking more right after this break. Dear viewers, assalamu alaikum and welcome back to, would you believe, the final part of Behind the Headlines here on British Muslim TV, speaking about the hugely inspirational, incredible life of Abdullah Afzal, the internationally renowned comedian and actor, those distressing parts of his life as well. And I'll remind you again, if you've been affected by anything that's been discussed in the program today, then please do visit britishmuslim.tv/support. That's britishmuslim.tv/support. Now, Abdullah Afzal, you made it to the height of TV fame, series after series, but your heart wasn't content. You found your contentment in your local masjid, but you still knew in your heart that you were and are an incredibly talented actor, an incredibly talented comedian. Was it possible for you to be a proud British Muslim and also continue in your chosen profession?
At the time, I felt like it was conflicted. I felt like it was either or rather than both. And, you know, it got to a point where I was about to get married. I took a big break from any TV work because I needed to pay for my wedding. I needed regular work. I got a job in an airport. And you have to remember, this is the same time when I was very popular at the time, especially in Asian households, you know, and I was working as a bomb section or a ASO in an airport. So I was searching people for weapons and knives and frisking people and checking their bags. And they were saying, "Are you injured?" While I was, you know, going through their dirty underpants, which was quite surreal moments for not only me, but for the person whose underpants I was holding up. But yeah, I went through that kind of rate and trying to figure out whether everyone was right in telling me that I couldn't do this as a British Muslim, that I couldn't have this career that I wanted as a British Muslim if I was going to be true to my religion. And I started to believe them at this point. So it was about April, a month before my marriage, and Citizen Khan, you know, the production team approached me, my agent, and said, "Look, sign the contract. We're going to go for the series 4. Sign your contract." And I said, "No." So I'm not going to do it. I said, I've done it. I've betrayed myself because this, not the TV show, but everything that comes with it has given me so much, but taken away much more. It's taken away much more from me. And I said, I don't want to do it. I'm going to carry on working in the airport. I just wanted the normal job. And I got married. I went on my honeymoon. I came back. I went to the airport. They contacted my agent again, and they said, "We'll double your money." And I thought, well, you know, I just got married. We could do with the money. So I thought, all right. But I promised myself I would stay away from the haram side. And I would also have a bit more of a say in terms of what was being said and done in the show. And I made that very clear when I was doing it. And hopefully you can see it's clear in Series 4 and Series 5. There's a lot less controversy. But also, I think I did dua as well to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you know, make it easy for me. Don't make this a difficult thing. Keep me away from haram. I think Allah helped in ways because in that year I got very fat. I think that helped in terms of any that type of haram happening. So, I made that promise, did Series 4, did Series 5, had my son. And this was when I started exploring halal options. And that's when I started doing, I did my first stand-up show in 2014 and I died. I died on stage because I did it in front of clubs and a pub and in front of people that I had to make up scenarios and I had to make up aspects of my life to fit in there. And I think it was clear that it wasn't authentic, my stand-up, and it didn't go down well. And it's the only stand-up clip you'll see of me online, and it was terrible, and I don't know why it's still there. And it was prime time, and I thought, this isn't for me.
Oh, no.
I can't do stand-up in front of this crowd, and I'm not sure about the TV stuff. And that's when I found this niche market, that there are Muslim people out there that love comedy. I just want to make it halal for them. And that was my thing, Mr. Bostan.
MashaAllah. Now for 6 years running, you have been the director, the writer, the curator of Penny Appeal's Super Muslim Comedy Tour, comedy show that's just toured the country. It's been a sold-out tour once again, as it often has been over the past 6 years. You've also been the face of the Great Muslim Pantomime, and now everyone's copying you out there. How does that feel?
100%. You know what it is? I was one of the first to step into this niche market because there's a lot of people doing it, but they're also mainstream comics. They do the haram stuff. They go to the clubs. They do the pubs. They do the foul language. They do the dirty joke. Whereas mine is as halal as it can be. Obviously, I am cheeky at times, but the language is clean. The rudeness is not there. And I feel like I have become the go-to guy. If you want halal comedy, and you want someone to put on a show, and you want someone who can make your family feel comfortable, or you want halal entertainment, I have become the guy to approach, the guy to go to. When I came up with this idea, of course, the charity Penny Appeal had already done pantomimes in the past, and one of them I was a part of. But when I decided that I wanted to write my own and do it in a completely different way and make it a completely different spectacle than anything that anyone had seen before, when I tell you I was approached by hundreds of people in order to get this on. It wasn't just charities, it was theatre companies, it was production companies, it was event management companies, all of them getting in touch because I just put it on my social media once and what is this, what is it, what is it, what is it? Of course, I already had a relationship because I do the comedy tour for Penny Appeal, and I spoke to them about it and they were interested as well, so I went with my gut and I went with that, and they already had the panto done before, and I told them my idea and what I had for it, and it's unbelievable because I know there's a gap in the market. Obviously, they will still have one or two people who won't like it or whatever. But I have done it for the people that I know, the people that I love, the people that I feel I belong to, the people that have given me the Spain, my community, and I want to give back to them. So it's not only about this pantomime. It's not only about the charity aspect, which is, I believe we're doing it for Penny Appeal's winter appeal, providing stuff for those suffering in the cold this winter all around the world, whether it's refugees, orphans, whoever it may be, but also about giving back to my community, making them laugh, giving them the chance to go out in the Christmas holidays or in December with their families and enjoying a fun performance, fun play for a good price, getting that enjoyment and also getting the enjoyment of being able to give to those most in need. But then the third aspect of it, Ahmed, is also doing what no one did for me. It's giving a platform for these actors, these up-and-comers, these comedians, these musicians who haven't been given their fair share of opportunity. And me giving them that platform, me giving them this chance to be on these huge TV stations as well in terms of publicity and speaking to them about their journey and marketing and everything. It's just everything together is so important for me. And that's why this pantomime is so important in terms of not only for the community, for myself, but for everyone. It's a big step in the right direction for everyone, I think.
And it's something very new for us as a British Muslim community. Before, when you think about what could you do in your pastime, what could you do, where can you take the family, you're always a bit worried, you're a bit scared. Can I take him to the theatre? Maybe I can't. Maybe if I take him to the cinema, there's going to be a film with some inappropriate scenes that are not appropriate for a family audience. You just don't know where you can take your family. But now, Abdullah, yourself and Penny Appeal have created that avenue where people can go, mashallah, have a laugh, enjoy themselves, help those less fortunate, and a fantastic family night out to the extent where tickets are just flying. Tell me about that. Why do you think tickets are flying? Is it because people have been desperate to get out after COVID? What's the reason behind it?
I think it's a mixture of a lot of things. I think one thing is over the last 9 years, I have developed a great trust with this community. They trust me when it comes to entertainment. They trust that I know the line, which is too far or not too far. And also, it's not been done before. The whole name of this pantomime, Sinda Alia, it just makes you interested. It makes you keen. It makes you want to watch it. It's something about it. It's just so unique.
It's brilliant.
And one of the great things about it is, I believe, as a British Muslim, a British Asian as well, looking at that Sinda Alia and seeing that poster, I generally think they feel like it belongs to them. They feel that it's finally something made for them. Of course, other people can come watch it. Of course, non-Muslims can come and enjoy it as well. But it's the same way as our community is going to a normal pantomime. They'll go, they'll enjoy it, sure, but none of the jokes are catered for them. None of the storylines are catered with them in mind. Whereas when they come to mine, I have done it for them. This is for them. This is for them and their children to enjoy. I have written it specifically for them. I've done it for a night out, a day out for them and their families. For them. Everything is for them. And when you feel that love, when you feel that connection, I think you have to come down and support it and enjoy it.
Now, how do you do that? How can people get tickets? Because I know the first few venues you had were completely and utterly sold out. You've had to get new venues. You've had to get new tickets online as well. How can people come and see Sinda Alia for themselves?
It was crazy, right? 36 hours, they were all gone. Thousands and thousands of tickets gone, right? But I've not told people about the new tickets properly yet. But what we've had to do is we literally had to go back to the drawing board, Mr. Bostan, and we had to cancel all the venues we had because they only catered for about 300 people. And we upscaled them to 1,000, 1,200, 900, 800 seaters. So more tickets became available. We're selling them very quickly as well. So there's limited tickets available. We're still looking at additional dates, but for now, get your ticket now if you can. The way to do it is to go on the Penny Appeal website, and it's all there for you. We've still got tickets available for London, for Birmingham, for Manchester, and yeah, so they're the cities that we've got tickets available for at the moment. But inshallah, I'm hoping to take it to more places such as Glasgow, Leicester, places like that as well in January. But for now, grab your tickets because they are going very quickly.
Absolutely. So that's pennyappeal.org to get your tickets for Sinda Alia, a truly British Muslim pantomime. As Abdullah said, he's made it, he's written it especially for all of you. Wow. Absolutely incredible. So pennyappeal.org to get your tickets. Brother Abdullah Afzal, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the program tonight. Thank you so much for sharing with us your powerful life story. We really, really appreciate your time today and for inspiring us and everyone watching in the work that you do. Really appreciate your time. And thank you, dear viewers, for joining us. Inshallah, we'll be back next week. Until then, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.